All right. Hello, friends. What is up? I'm here to talk about the Hellblade, my thoughts on it. I have some notes. I actually was thinking this was going to be really quick, and I was like, I only took a few notes, and then I went and looked at my notepad, and I was like, oh, shit, I took more notes than I thought I did. I don't remember writing all this stuff, and I was like, damn, when did I write all this stuff? It's not huge, but there's a bit more than I was expecting. I literally thought I wrote like 2 or 3 notes, but I wrote a bit. So I'm gonna jump into this sucker. Hopefully enjoy to hang out with me. I will say first off, I thought the game was amazing, but I want to talk about it. Let's see, if you have to compare it to anything, I would say it would be Devil May Cry meets Beyond Two Souls. It's a heavy on the walking sim, lots of puzzles. The combat is not balanced very well, in my opinion. And I don't mean the fighting it mechanics. I mean the pacing between walking a ton and then fighting and puzzles and fighting. The balance was a bit off. I think at one point it felt like I played for like 2 hours without a single fight in the scene, so that was a little weird, but I loved it. The actual story experiencing the game was cool. The permadeath thing is very weird. There's been a lot of controversy over the permadeath thing. As I was playing through the game, I think I read about the permadeath thing a day after I started playing it. The article started coming out the very next day, and it didn't bother me, especially since I know it was a short game, and after having experienced the combat and played the game, I was like, not really worried about that, because I would assume if there was really a permadeath in the game, if there was, you would have to probably have to die like an infinite amount of times, and the combat itself is not very hard. It can be sort of challenging, but it's not really super hard. It's fast-paced action. There's parries, there's dodge rolling. I've seen people compare it to Dark Souls, and I'm like, whoa, no. You've either never played any other games, or whatever. Which I think I was actually talking to one of my friends and Rice and Cakes, and she said the only other game she knew that she could compare it to was Dark Souls, because she hadn't really played any other games like that and stuff. So I was like, alright, that makes sense. But if you played other games, action or hack and slash and stuff like that, it's not nearly as punishing or challenging as Dark Souls, although I don't really personally consider Dark Souls as challenging. But it depends, per fight and all that. But it's more a hack and slash, fast-paced action when you do combat. I definitely like it. It was super cool combat. I wish there was a challenge mode, so like after you beat the game or whatever, you have like a separate game mode where you could fight off waves of enemies. I would love that. Something I would really love to see. There were parts too. The way the combat works is really weird, because you face off like little tiny groups of enemies sometimes. Of course, when you first start, you start off with like one enemy, I believe. But there are parts in the game where you fight like 2 to 5 to 6 enemies, and then more come in and stuff, and there's waves of enemies. But when there's like 2 or 3 or 4 on the screen at once, I think the max was, for most parts, was like maximum 3 at one time or something. It's just the way the combat is. The game is more about an experience than a hack and slash. It's a walking sim. It's a story focused game with really good combat in it. So there were parts though during combat where if you have multiple enemies on the screen, the way the combat system is, sometimes, not always, an enemy would like just stand there while you're fighting another enemy, while you're fighting his buddies, and it's supposed to be like challenging because you're supposed to have to switch the camera between the different enemies and stuff. But that doesn't always work out that way, and it's probably buggy. There was a couple times where that did happen. I was like, I wonder if I forced myself to die here, if I restarted this combat scene, if it would do that again. And I just didn't want to kill myself just to find out if that guy wouldn't get stuck again, So I was like, whatever. Alright, let's see. Unlike other walking simulators, there are puzzles and action combat. So I just went over that. I should have read my note first. But yeah, so unlike other walking simulators, there are puzzles. Some walking simulators, for example, not all of them. It depends on the game, but I've played a lot of walking simulators where it's basically all you do is walk and you get told the story as you go through it. Like Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. And I loved that game. I thought it was super cool. I loved the atmosphere. I loved the story. The mystery of it, I thought it was really cool. But, there wasn't really any puzzles. You just straight up walk through that. Dear Esther, freaking awesome. I love that. It's super short. It's like a 2-hour game. I love that. All you do is walk through it, You gotta be in the mood for something like that. So one thing that this game reminded me of, made me think about it, I was like, I really wish I had expected that of Quantum Break. But the way they presented it, or Quantum Break, a little sidetrack here real quick, because there is a comparison here for me with Hellblade and Quantum Break. Quantum Break. I loved Quantum Break as a game, and I did love it. I thought it was a really great game, but I was majorly disappointed in it. As much as I loved it, I was majorly let down. And the biggest reason for that was the presentation. They presented it as an action time game, right? It's like 90% walking sim. And unlike this game, where when you see all the gameplay previews and they show it off and they're presenting it to you before the game launched, like, I could already tell this was going to be a journey. This is mostly story focused. I could tell from watching all the gameplay before this game came out. I could tell that this was going to be a game I was going to be walking through and experiencing the character. Quantum Break, on the other hand, like I said, they presented it as an action game, and that's what really let me down. It was just majorly disappointing. Just so frustrated at that. So that was the comparison I wanted to talk about. Let's see. In Hellblade, you experience the character's life through her mind, the darkness of losing someone, the grief, and self-blame for that. This is how I see it, and you may see it differently. We experience the same emotions, but we experience them differently, and we have different perspectives. Most games are experienced the same way. If you play something like Far Cry, for example, you may kill enemies differently, but the general experience is the same. With Hellblade, it's easier for different people to have a different perspective on how it plays out, story-wise, and what the exact meaning is, even though there is a general idea of the story. So they do present the story, there is a story there, but you can interpret it a little bit differently. You can have your own ideas. Like, for example, for me, like, throughout the whole game, I kept thinking, she's probably dead at the end of the game. She's probably dead. There's no way she's this character. This whole, like, experience of the game is her, like, experiencing her life before she died, and at the end of the game she's dead. That's what I kept thinking as I was playing it. I also thought maybe at the end we would see her, we'd go into the real world and see her in a hospital with her family members around her, or maybe not all at once, but throughout the game I was thinking maybe family members and loved ones were the voices in her head that she keeps hearing and stuff like that, besides her own voice, of course, So it's just one way that I saw the game as I was playing through it. So there's different ways we can see the game and stuff, even though the story is there. There isn't an actual like main focus of a story going on and stuff. So I thought that was cool. One thing I would do is I would speed up the run speed a little bit. Not a whole lot, but it could use a bit of a boost. There's a sprint in the game. You can toggle it on and off, or you can hold the button. I use toggle because I ran through the whole game anyways, but it's barely faster than the walk speed, so I would have sped that up a little bit. One of my friends laughed at that. He said, but if they speeded up the character, then you'd be through the game in an hour, and I thought that was pretty funny. And I was like, well, they could have made the world a little bit bigger to accommodate the speed of the character, or whatever. But also part of the slowness is you're hearing the voices, and I think that might have been why they kept the speed so slow. So you can actually hear you hear everything, you hear the story before skipping it, like if you reach a checkpoint and then all of a sudden the dialogue stops or whatever. So that was one of the things I would have changed, is change the run speed a little bit. I loved the new puzzles. For me, it was the new kinds of puzzles because I had never played these kinds of puzzles before. I played plenty of puzzle games, but I'm not a big, I don't focus on puzzle games or anything. But I love the puzzles in this game. Super cool. One of my favorites was a maze. I was so happy to see that in the game, and I didn't want to spoil that, but there's maze. I love mazes. I freaking love them. I don't know. I like getting lost in mazes. I don't know why. I like the idea. Even when I see movies with mazes, I'm like, ooh, like Labyrinth or some shit, or like even the Maze Runner. I love the Maze Runner. But the puzzles in this game were really cool, and I thought they were just new to me. I don't know what other games have puzzles like this. If you know, let me know, because I'm very interested in that. They had some pretty cool puzzles in that. But I do prefer this game as far as like there's more action. Like I don't want to just play a puzzle game. That's why I like this one too. Very heavy story focus, but lots of really cool combat. Anyways, let's see. Made a new experience figuring out the puzzles on my own. With zero idea on how they even acted out, because like I said, I'd never played these kinds of puzzles. So when I was first experiencing them, I was like, what am I doing? Like, what is this? It was pretty cool. I watched a friend of mine do the very first puzzle that I got stuck on a little bit. I was super confused by it, and then she got confused by it after she solved it. She didn't know what to do after that. I had a problem just solving it. I thought that was super fun. We both had a different experience on that. That was super funny, man. Let's see, during the first few puzzles where I'd get stumped, I'd get angry because I couldn't wait to get to the next part of the story. And it felt like I was wasting my time with the puzzle stuff. But once I finally understood how the puzzles worked, they were very cool and nicely designed. Yeah, so there was like one after the first puzzle. The first puzzle was the simplest, but a couple later, like I was walking around and running around in circles and stuff, going, "What the hell?" You know, I was so pissed off, and I was like, "I just want to move through the story," because the puzzle was new to me, so I was super confused. I didn't understand it, but once I did understand, I was like, "Oh, I get this," you know. And it doesn't mean I didn't do everything like super easy right away or anything after that, but once I understood, I was like, "This is really cool." Let's see. While I was annoyed a little bit, I didn't want to run to the internet to see how to get past the puzzles because I was really into the freshness of the game and I wanted to figure it out myself. Sometimes I get stuck on a puzzle and I get so frustrated. I'm like, screw this, I don't even care about this puzzle. You know, I don't want to be stuck here because this is not worth my time, whatever. I don't care. Whatever it is, I'm missing out. But in this game, that's how I generally feel in other games. If I get stuck on a puzzle, not always, you know. But sometimes when there's like something I've been trying to find for forever, I'll just be like, screw it. I don't like going to the internet, but in this specific case with Hellblade, like I really wanted to figure out the puzzles for myself because I'd never really seen anything like that before. It was cool. It was really special to me. I thought that was really neat. Like I said, they probably do exist in other games. I don't know. I haven't played other games with puzzles that are exactly like Hellblade, so I thought it was really cool. And I did not want to go to the internet and be like, how do I get past this part? Although it might have been hard since it was the first day and all that. First couple days, but let's see. If the puzzles weren't such a new mechanic, yeah, alright, I didn't even have to. Yeah, I'm kind of playing off my own notes here, so I already went over that. The puzzles themselves are not overly difficult or anything. It was just something I hadn't seen before. Okay, yeah. I mean, they weren't overly difficult. They weren't like super hard. They were just something new and different. Let's see. Alright, and that's all my notes. That's actually all my notes. I loved Hellblade, dude. I thought it was so freaking cool, man. Especially the end. Oh my gosh, like the whole game was so good. And there were lots of slow parts, but I really liked the experience. I often feel very crazy. I do. I often talk to myself all the time. And I'm sure we've all had thoughts in our head that we conflict with the other thoughts in our head. You know, we want to do one thing, another thing. We think one thing, another thing. What if this? What if that? You know. I'm sure I'm not the only one like that, you know. And it is different. They're trying to actually really represent the mental illness part of it. Like they actually, some of the behind the scenes stuff was really cool. They actually had like patients that had experienced this kind of stuff and come in and talk with them and tell them what they thought about what they were doing with it. And, it was really neat. The behind the scenes thing was really cool. It's in the menu screen of the game when you start up under like special or something like that. And they tell you before you watch it beat the game, which I did. I beat the game, and then after I beat the game, I went and watched that, and it was actually very interesting. But yeah, so I often feel very crazy. So hearing the voices in the head, I loved experiencing this character. I really did. I loved everything. It was a little bit slow a couple times, but I don't think I ever got bored. I think I more got like, I was like, I couldn't wait to get to the next parts. I wasn't really bored, but I was like, oh, come on. You know, pacing could have used a little bit of adjustments, just a little bit. Like I said, at one point it felt like I freaking walked for 2 hours, which was cool. I didn't hate it or anything, but without like a single bit of combat, you know. And I was like, you know. Anyways, I will be playing a second playthrough for sure. This is one of those games. Although I've said that before in the past, I still haven't gotten around to my second playthrough on some games that I said I would play. But I will, eventually I will. This is one of the games I feel like I'll play sooner, but I'm not quite ready. Like, I really want to play it, but I feel like it won't be... I'm worried about it not being as good of an experience the second time so soon after completing it, so I'm kind of trying to push it away a little bit. But I do want to play it again. I freaking loved it, man. I loved it. And I swear I really wish they had a damn challenge mode so I could just fight off waves of enemies, something, you know, like leaderboards maybe, I don't know. Because the combat is super fun. It's really cool. It's not perfect, but it's really cool, super fun. Love it, man. Alright. Great story, great, awesome. Oh man, the ending too. Not just the ending, but like the final couple hours, like, oh man, oh gosh, the final fight, the final hours, whole game, I loved it. Alright, thank you for watching. I hope you guys have an amazing day, and I will hopefully see you soon. Bye.